The rain struck the ballroom windows like handfuls of thrown gravel. Inside, 300 people drank champagne beneath crystal chandeliers and pretended not to hear it. I moved between them with a silver tray balanced on one palm, smiling whenever someone looked at me and disappearing whenever they did not. That was the first rule of serving Manhattan's powerful: be present without becoming memorable. My name was Emily Carter. I was 26, 6 months away from earning my translation certificate, and one missed paycheck away from choosing between rent and tuition. That night, I broke the first rule. Table 7 had been empty since the gala began. No place cards. No floral centerpiece. Just 4 black chairs separated from the rest of the room by a velvet rope no one crossed. At 9:17, the musicians stopped in the middle of a song. The Morettis had arrived. 4 men entered through the eastern doors, but the room reacted to only 2. Vincent Moretti walked first. Tall. Black suit. No tie. Dark hair swept back from a face that seemed carved for statues, not kindness. He did not scan the ballroom like a guest. He inspected it like property. Behind him came his father. Salvatore Moretti was older, broad-shouldered despite the silver in his hair. He leaned on an ebony cane, but no one mistook it for weakness. Conversations died as he passed. A senator stepped aside too quickly and nearly spilled his drink. Salvatore noticed. He noticed everything. "Do not stare," my supervisor whispered as she pushed a bottle of wine into my hands. "Serve them. Speak only if spoken to." "Why me?" "Because Maria is crying in the kitchen." That should have been enough warning. I approached their table with my heartbeat pressed against my ribs. Vincent was listening to a man I later learned was Daniel Russo, the Moretti family attorney. Salvatore sat in silence, one hand resting over the silver head of his cane. I poured the wine. No one acknowledged me. Then Daniel slid a folder across the table. Salvatore did not open it. Instead, he looked around the ballroom. At the bowed heads. The nervous smiles. The people pretending not to watch him. His mouth twisted. He spoke in Italian. "Qualcuno che conosce ancora la differenza tra rispetto e paura?" Does anyone here still know the difference between respect and fear? The words were not loud, but they traveled. Daniel lowered his eyes. The guards remained still. Vincent's jaw tightened, as if this was an old argument wearing a new suit. Salvatore repeated the question. No one answered. I should have kept pouring. I should have stepped away. My grandmother's voice rose from a memory instead. Never confuse silence with respect, Emily. Sometimes people are quiet because they are polite. Sometimes they are quiet because someone has taught them to be afraid. My hand stopped above Salvatore's glass. Il rispetto remain, I said, quando la paura lascia la stanza. Respect remains when fear leaves the room. The bottle trembled once in my grip. Then the entire ballroom seemed to inhale. Daniel stared at me. One of the guards shifted his hand beneath his jacket. Vincent turned slowly in his chair. His eyes were colder than I expected. Not angry. Measuring. But Salvatore smiled. It was not warm. It was not kind. It was the smile of a man who had thrown a knife into darkness and heard it strike something alive. What is your name? He asked in English. Emily Carter. You speak Italian. My grandmother taught me. His gaze sharpened. That was not schoolroom Italian. I swallowed. No, sir. Do not call me sir. My supervisor stood across the ballroom, pale and frozen. Vincent rose. The movement was quiet, yet every muscle in my body prepared to run. He stepped closer, stopping on the other side of my tray. Up close, I saw a thin scar near his right eyebrow and exhaustion hidden beneath all that control. My father has insulted mayors in Italian, he said. Threatened judges in Italian. Refused doctors in Italian. I kept my eyes on his. He asked a question. And you believed he wanted an answer? I believed no one else was going to give him one. Something changed in Vincent's expression. Not approval. Interest. Salvatore tapped his cane once against the marble floor. The sound cut through the silence. Who taught your grandmother? He asked. I don't know. His eyes moved to the small silver cross at my throat, then back to my face. For the first time, the old man looked uncertain. Vincent saw it too. He leaned toward me, his voice low enough that only I could hear. What was your grandmother's name? Teresa Carter, I said. Her maiden name was Bellini. Vincent's face did not change. That frightened me more than anger would have. Salvatore's fingers tightened around the silver head of his cane. Daniel Russo closed the folder in front of him with slow, deliberate care. Then Vincent took the wine bottle from my hand. Walk with me. It was not a request. He led me through a side door into a corridor lined with gilded mirrors. The music returned behind us, hesitant at first, as though even the orchestra needed permission to breathe again. Vincent stopped beneath a wall lamp. You embarrassed powerful people tonight. I answered your father. That is how it began. His voice was quiet. Controlled. But I could feel the warning beneath it. He took a white envelope from inside his jacket and held it toward me. I did not touch it. What is that? Enough money to replace tonight's wages. And several months after that. For what? Discretion. I looked at the envelope, then at him. You think I'm going to sell a conversation? I think people accept money for far less. Then find one of those people. For the first time, his composure cracked. Not much. Just a slight narrowing of his eyes. A breath held half a second too long. You should be careful refusing men you do not understand. You should be careful offering money to women you haven't listened to. The corridor went still. Vincent stepped closer. He was not touching me, but his presence filled the space between us. Expensive cologne. Rain on wool. The faint metallic scent of danger. You are either very brave, he said, or very reckless. Tonight, I can't afford the difference. Something almost human moved through his expression. Then the side door opened. Salvatore stood there, Daniel behind him. My son interrogates people when he is curious, Salvatore said. He calls it caution. I call it survival, Vincent replied. Salvatore ignored him and looked at me. I require an interpreter. You already speak English. I speak many things. Few people hear what I mean. Daniel's mouth tightened. Mr. Moretti has physicians and legal advisors available to him. And yet, Salvatore said, none of them answered me. His gaze returned to mine. Come to my home tomorrow. Every instinct told me to refuse. Men like the Morettis did not invite people into their world. They absorbed them. For how long? A few days. Until he decides otherwise, Vincent added. No, I faced him. Until I decide otherwise. His expression hardened. I continued before fear could close my throat. I leave when I choose. I translate exactly what is said. I don't soften insults, hide threats, or change words to protect anyone's pride. Daniel gave a quiet laugh. Salvatore did not. Agreed, he said. Vincent looked at his father. You cannot bring a stranger into the house because she knows a proverb. Salvatore stepped close enough to whisper in Italian. Il bugiardo vive sotto il tuo tetto da anni. The liar has lived beneath your roof for years. His eyes remained on Vincent, but the message was meant for me. By midnight, a black car carried me home. Vincent sat across from me, silent, watching the city slide over the windows. He never mentioned the envelope again. When I reached my apartment, he finally spoke. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock. And if I change my mind? His gaze held mine. Then I'll wonder why my father remembered your grandmother's name before I found it in a sealed family record. At 8 the next morning, the black car returned. The Moretti estate stood beyond iron gates north of the city, hidden behind winter trees and stone walls too high to see over. Cameras followed us along the drive. Men in dark coats watched from positions that looked casual until I noticed none of them ever turned their backs to the road. Vincent waited at the entrance. No greeting. No apology for the armed escort outside my apartment. He simply opened the door and said, "Stay near me." Inside, the house felt less like a home than a place built to survive a siege. Marble floors. Closed curtains. Paintings of unsmiling ancestors. Every footstep softened the moment Salvatore appeared at the far end of the hall. A maid carrying coffee lowered her eyes. A guard straightened. Daniel stopped speaking mid-sentence. Salvatore noticed all of it and looked tired. Not weak. Tired. He led us into a library where a physician and 2 advisors were already waiting. Papers covered the long table. Several bore Salvatore's name beneath empty signature lines. Daniel gestured toward a chair beside him. "You can sit there, Miss Carter. We will call on you when necessary." Salvatore struck his cane once against the floor. "She sits beside me." I did. Vincent remained standing behind his father, one hand resting on the back of the chair. Close enough to protect him. Far enough to look detached. The physician began discussing memory loss. Salvatore listened without interruption, then replied in Italian. "Quando il gatto dorme, I topi non diventano soltanto più rumorosi." Daniel exhaled. "He says everyone is making too much noise." That isn't what he said. The room turned toward me. I kept my voice even. He said, "When the cat sleeps, the mice do not become kings. They only become louder." Vincent's eyes shifted to Daniel. The physician adjusted his glasses. Metaphorical language is common in cognitive decline. Salvatore smiled without humor and spoke again. This time, slower. He described a shepherd who trusted another man to count his sheep. Every morning, the number remained correct. Every evening, the flock grew thinner. Daniel translated before I could. "He is worried about estate expenses." "No," I said. Vincent looked at me sharply. I continued. "He is saying the records are accurate because someone is changing the flock, not the numbers." Silence pressed against the shelves. Daniel folded his hands. "Miss Carter, you are here to translate words, not invent accusations." I translated exactly what he said. "And what do you think he means?" Vincent asked. His tone held no threat this time. Only attention. I looked at Salvatore. He was not watching me. He was watching Daniel. "I think he wants you to stop treating every story as confusion." Something tightened in Vincent's face. For a moment, I thought he would order me out. Instead, he pulled the nearest document toward him. "What is this?" Daniel answered quickly. "A routine transfer of voting authority. Your father approved the draft last month." Salvatore began speaking before Daniel finished. His voice was rougher now. He told Vincent about a bridge built from beautiful stone. Everyone praised its strength because no crack could be seen above the water. Then came the winter flood. The bridge did not collapse from the weight placed upon it. It collapsed because someone had removed the foundation where no one thought to look. Vincent lowered his gaze to the document. "What is he warning me about?" Salvatore's eyes met mine. The room seemed to contract around us. I translated his final sentence word for word. "If my son signs tomorrow, he will lose something no money can return." Vincent did not sign. He dismissed the advisors one by one, leaving Daniel until last. "I want every document reviewed again," Vincent said. Daniel's expression remained calm. "Your father approved the terms." "My father just warned me not to." "He told you a story about a bridge." Vincent looked at me. No, he said. She told me what it meant. Daniel's eyes settled on my face before he left. Polite. Cold. Memorizing. The library doors closed behind him. Salvatore tried to stand. His cane slipped. Vincent caught him before he struck the floor. The movement was so fast it felt instinctive. One arm around his father's waist. One hand behind his neck. No guards called. No commands shouted. Easy, Vincent murmured. Salvatore pushed weakly against him. Non sono un bambino. I am not a child. Vincent's jaw tightened. Then stop frightening everyone like one. The words sounded harsh. His hands did not. He helped Salvatore into a leather chair, adjusted the cushion behind his back, then knelt to check the old man's pulse. The feared mafia boss who could silence a ballroom was suddenly counting heartbeats with his thumb. Salvatore stared at the ceiling. Ho distrutto la sola cosa che tua madre mi affidò. Vincent went still. I had heard the sentence twice that morning. Each time, Daniel had reduced it to the same translation. Your father says you destroyed what your mother left him. But that was not what Salvatore had said. I spoke carefully. He isn't accusing you. Vincent looked up. He said, I destroyed the only thing your mother entrusted to me. Salvatore closed his eyes. The room changed. Not dramatically. Just enough for 20 years of anger to lose its shape. Vincent rose slowly. Why didn't anyone translate it that way before? I did not answer. I did not need to. His gaze moved toward the door Daniel had closed. Then back to his father. For one brief second, Vincent looked younger than 35. Not dangerous. Not untouchable. Just a son discovering that the wound he had carried might have been given to him by the wrong words. That evening, he drove me home himself. Halfway to the city, a black sedan appeared behind us. Vincent noticed it before I did. His eyes shifted to the mirror. His posture changed. The warmth vanished. Who knows where you live? My landlord. My school. Half the delivery drivers in Manhattan. That car has followed us for 9 blocks. My stomach tightened. Vincent made one call. By the time we reached my street, 2 Moretti vehicles had boxed the sedan away from us. You're not staying here, he said. I am. I have an apartment downtown. Secure entrance. Armed protection. You already decided? Yes. Then you can live there. His head turned toward me. This is not a debate. Safety without consent is still control. The words landed harder than I expected. For several seconds, only the windshield wipers moved. Then Vincent exhaled through his nose. What would you accept? It was the first time he had asked instead of ordered. Someone outside the building. No one inside. No cameras in my apartment. And I keep my own key. He nodded once. Agreed. My front door was unlocked. I knew I had locked it. The apartment looked untouched until I stepped inside. Then I saw the drawers left open by half an inch. The couch cushions replaced in the wrong order. My grandmother's wooden box sitting on the table. Empty. A prayer book lay open beside it, its worn leather lining torn away. Something had been hidden inside. A photograph. My grandmother stood in the center, young and unsmiling. Salvatore Moretti stood beside her. Daniel Russo stood behind them. But someone else had once been there too. Only that face had been scratched away. Vincent took the photograph from my hand without touching my fingers. His eyes moved over the faces once. Then again. Where did you find this? Inside the prayer book. His thumb stopped over Daniel's younger face. I watched something cold settle behind his eyes. Not shock. Calculation. Before he could speak, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was loud enough for me to hear urgency, but not words. Vincent's expression changed. My father collapsed. The drive back to the estate was a blur of red lights and rain-slicked streets. Vincent drove with one hand on the wheel, the other gripping his phone so tightly I thought the glass might crack. No threats. No orders. Only one question, repeated to 3 different people. Is he conscious? No one gave him the answer he wanted. When we reached the estate, the front doors were open. Daniel stood in the marble hall beside Salvatore's physician. 2 guards waited near the staircase. The air smelled of antiseptic and expensive wood polish. Salvatore sat in a wheelchair. His skin looked gray. His eyes found me immediately. Daniel stepped forward. This is no longer an appropriate time for outside involvement. Then why is there a legal folder on his lap? I asked. Vincent looked down. The same transfer documents from the library rested beneath Salvatore's trembling hand. Daniel did not flinch. Your father requested that the matter be completed tonight. Salvatore muttered something in Italian. The words dragged together. Too slow. Too soft. Daniel leaned closer. He says he wants to sign. No, I said. Every face turned toward me. Daniel's voice hardened. Miss Carter. He said he wants the room to stop moving. The physician approached Salvatore. Disorientation is expected after an episode like this. I crouched in front of him. His pupils were uneven. Sweat shone along his hairline. His breathing came shallow, then deep, as if his body had forgotten its rhythm. Salvatore, did you take your evening medication? His hand moved weakly toward the side table. A black leather pill case rested there. Daniel reached for it. I reached first. Inside were 4 compartments marked in Italian. I had seen Salvatore open the same case that morning. White blood pressure tablets. 1 pale yellow capsule. A small blue pill for his heart. Tonight, the capsules were red. The blue pill was gone. These aren't the same. The physician took the case from me. His face tightened. Daniel spoke quickly. Prescriptions change. Not without the doctor knowing, I said. Vincent looked at the physician. The man swallowed. I made no changes. The room became silent in a new way. Not fear. Recognition. Daniel closed the folder. We should avoid conclusions until, step away from my father, Vincent said. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. 2 guards moved between Daniel and the wheelchair. The physician called for equipment. I stayed beside Salvatore, translating his broken phrases while the medical team checked his pulse, his blood pressure, his blood. Vincent stood over us, helpless in the only way powerful men truly fear. Salvatore's hand searched blindly. I took it. His fingers were cold. Tell him, he whispered in Italian. Tell Vincent what? His eyes shifted toward the photograph still inside Vincent's coat. The 3rd person never left. My breath caught. Across the room, Daniel's face remained perfectly composed. The physician gave Salvatore an injection. Minutes passed. Color returned slowly to his cheeks. His breathing steadied. The danger moved back a step, but it did not leave the room. Vincent knelt beside me. He looked at our joined hands, then at my face. I nearly signed. But you didn't. Because you stopped me. It was the first time he looked at me without suspicion. Not as a waitress. Not as an intruder. As someone standing between his father and the grave. Salvatore opened his eyes again. He stared at me with sudden clarity. Then he spoke one name. Not Emily. Not Carter. Emilia Bellandi. The Italian surname struck me like a bell inside my chest. My grandmother had whispered it once before she died. I had never told anyone. Vincent heard it too. And the trust in his eyes became something far more dangerous. A question neither of us was ready to answer. The question lasted until sunrise. By then, Vincent had turned the eastern sitting room into an investigation chamber. Phones rang behind closed doors. Guards crossed the hall with sealed envelopes. Salvatore slept upstairs under medical supervision while rain washed the windows pale gray. I sat alone beneath a portrait of Vincent's mother, holding the photograph in both hands. Emilia Bellandi. The name my grandmother had buried. The name Salvatore remembered. Vincent entered carrying a thin black file. He did not sit. "We found records from 32 years ago," he said. Teresa Bellini was the name she used after disappearing. Before that, Emilia Bellandi interpreted for my father. The fact should have relieved me. Instead, his voice made my skin tighten. What else? She met repeatedly with Carlo Vescari. I knew the name. Everyone in New York knew it once. The Moretti's bloodiest rival. A man blamed for the car bombing that killed Vincent's mother. Vincent placed a photograph on the table. My grandmother stood outside a restaurant beside Carlo Vescari. The date stamped beneath it was 3 days before the bombing. "No," I whispered. "There are payment records." She cleaned houses. She translated immigration papers. Money could mean anything. "There are letters." He slid one toward me. The paper was old, but the signature was clear. Emilia. My grandmother's name beneath a warning about Moretti security routes. I looked up. Vincent's expression was harder than stone because stone did not have to hide pain. "You think she helped kill your mother? I think you knew more than you admitted." The accusation struck deeper than it should have. "You searched my apartment. You saw how I lived. Do you honestly believe I planned any of this?" I no longer know what to believe. That hurt because hours earlier, he had. I stood. The room shifted as 2 guards appeared outside the doorway. Vincent saw me notice. "There for your protection." "Am I allowed to leave?" His silence answered first. "Not until I know whether someone sent you." A laugh escaped me. Small. Broken. "Yesterday I saved your father's life. And today I learned your grandmother may have helped destroy my family. So gratitude has an expiration date. This is not about gratitude. No. It's about control. It always becomes control when you're afraid." His jaw tightened. "You are standing inside a house where someone changed my father's medication. And you think locking me inside makes you different from them?" The words landed. I saw them land. But fear had already won. Vincent looked toward the guards. "Take Miss Carter to the East Suite." I stared at him. Not at the Mafia Boss. At the man who had asked me what I would accept, and had now decided my answer no longer mattered. "I stayed because I thought you were learning to trust me," I said. I was wrong. His eyes flickered. I walked past him before he could see what the sentence cost me. I did not reach the stairs. Salvatore's physician rushed down from the 2nd floor, shouting for Vincent. In the confusion, Daniel stepped from the library and caught my arm. "Come with me," he whispered. "I can prove your grandmother was innocent." I should have called for Vincent. Instead, I followed the only man offering an answer. Daniel led me through a service corridor to a glass conservatory behind the house. Dawn pressed silver against the roof. He locked the door. Then he removed an old brass key from his pocket. "You have her courage," he said. Something in his Italian changed on the final word. The vowel softened. The consonant clipped. A dialect my grandmother used only when frightened. My blood went cold. "You knew her." Daniel smiled. "Better than Salvatore ever did." The scratched face in the photograph flashed through my mind. "You scratched out the 4th person." His smile disappeared. Before I could move, the conservatory lights went out. I heard the door open behind me. By the time I turned, Daniel was gone. Vincent found me 10 minutes later. I told him everything. The key. The dialect. The hidden corridor Daniel had used. For one terrible second, hope entered his face. Then a guard ran toward us from the main house. Salvatore's room was empty. The security team had transferred him to a private clinic 20 minutes earlier. On Daniel Russo's authorization. Vincent's phone rang. Mine rang at the same time. A voicemail. Salvatore's voice trembled through the speaker in Italian. Do not trust the man who turns silence into obedience. Vincent replayed the voicemail 3 times. On the 4th, I heard what fear had hidden. Salvatore paused before the word obedience. Not hesitation. A signal. My grandmother had used the same pause when teaching me old Sicilian sayings. A missing word meant the opposite direction. A repeated breath meant the place had a second name. Play it again, I said. Vincent's hands were covered in blood where his nails had cut his palms. We don't have time for language games. That is why he used one. I closed my eyes and listened past Salvatore's trembling voice. A truck horn. Water striking metal. 3 church bells, unevenly spaced. The old cannery, I whispered. Vincent stared at me. My grandmother called it the House of Obedience. She said frightened men were taken there when powerful men wanted silence. His face emptied. That property burned 20 years ago. The upper floors did. Within minutes, the estate filled with armed men. Vincent issued orders with lethal calm, but when he reached the front doors, I followed. No, he sent the message to me. He sent it because he trusts you. I will not reward that trust by taking you into a trap. You already tried protecting me by taking away my choice. Pain moved across his face. This time, he did not hide it. I was wrong. The words stopped me more completely than a command. He looked at the guards, then dismissed them with one gesture until only we remained beneath the stone archway. My mother died because my father trusted the wrong person, he said. Tonight, I nearly lost him because I did the same thing in reverse. I trusted no one. His voice dropped. And I made you pay for it. The apology did not repair what he had broken. But it made the break visible. We go together, I said. You follow my translation. I follow your security plan. Vincent nodded. Equal terms. Our first honest agreement. The cannery stood beside the river like the skeleton of a dead animal. Rusted pipes. Broken windows. Black water beneath the loading dock. Inside, Daniel waited beside Salvatore. The old man was tied to a chair beneath a hanging work light. A recorder sat on the table. Beside it lay the transfer documents. Daniel smiled when he saw me. You brought her. Good. She can finally translate correctly. Salvatore lifted his head. His face was bruised, but his eyes remained clear. He spoke in Italian. The son must not inherit the father's sin. Daniel raised a gun toward Vincent. Translate. I looked at Salvatore's fingers. 2 taps against the chair. Pause. 1 tap. Not words. Directions. Left corridor. Lower door. He was telling us where Daniel had hidden the evidence. I translated something else. He says Vincent should sign. Vincent's eyes met mine. For one terrible second, I saw doubt return. Then he looked at Salvatore's hand. He understood. Vincent moved when the lights went out. A gunshot split the darkness. Metal crashed. Someone screamed. I dropped to the floor and crawled toward Salvatore's voice. When emergency lights flickered red, Daniel was gone. Vincent stood near the loading doors, one hand pressed to his side. Blood darkened his shirt. I reached him first. I'm fine, he lied. Behind us, Salvatore whispered, "the recording." The lower room held decades of ledgers, sealed letters, and one reel of audio marked with my grandmother's hidden surname. Vincent found a fuel can beside the files. "We burn it," he said. "Daniel loses everything. And so does the truth." His eyes closed. Revenge was standing within reach. Justice required him to let go. Slowly, Vincent lowered the match. We carried Salvatore out as sirens approached. At the river road, the old man refused the waiting car. "No more private settlements," he said in English. He looked at his son, then at me. "Call the council." Vincent's face hardened at what that would cost him. Then he turned to his men. "Emily will translate." One of them began to object. Vincent silenced him with a look. "At the council," he said, "no one interrupts her." Salvatore placed the old recording in my hands. On its label, beneath Amelia Belandi's name, someone had written one sentence: "The truth about Vincent's mother begins here." The Moretti Council gathered before midnight. 20 men sat beneath the carved ceiling of the old family hall. Men who had ordered cities to move around them. Men who had spent their lives mistaking silence for loyalty. Daniel stood between two guards at the far end of the room. They had found him near the river with a passport and enough cash to become someone else. He looked at me and smiled. "A waitress," he said. "This family will destroy itself on the translation of a waitress." Vincent stood beside his father, one hand pressed beneath the bandage at his side. "No," he said. "It nearly destroyed itself by listening only to men like you." He placed the recorder in front of me. Then he stepped back. The room became mine. I pressed play. My grandmother's voice emerged through the static. Younger. Frightened. Unmistakable. She described discovering payments made through Moretti accounts. Weapons sold to both sides of a war Daniel had quietly created. Security routes copied. Drivers bribed. Then another woman spoke. Vincent's mother, the face Daniel had scratched from the photograph. She said Daniel's name. Vincent closed his eyes. The recording continued. His mother and my grandmother had planned to bring the evidence to Salvatore. Daniel discovered them first. He forged letters making Emilia appear loyal to Carlo Vescari. He changed the route of the Moretti car himself. The bombing was never ordered by a rival. It was ordered by the man standing inside the family. Daniel laughed once. "You expect them to believe an old recording?" Salvatore lifted his cane. "I expect them to believe me." He spoke in Italian. His voice shook, but every word was clear. I translated. "My wife trusted me with the truth. Amelia Belandi carried it to my door. I chose the family's reputation over both women." No one moved. Salvatore looked at Vincent. I knew Daniel had betrayed us. I did not know how far his betrayal reached. I buried Amelia's warning because admitting it would have exposed our weakness. I allowed an innocent woman to leave this city branded a traitor. His eyes found mine. I saved the empire. I lost my wife. And I taught my son to inherit my silence. The room blurred. My grandmother had not abandoned her name from shame. She had buried it to survive. Daniel stepped toward me. The guards restrained him. "You think truth makes you powerful?" he hissed. "No," I said. "It makes your power temporary." Vincent opened the sealed folder recovered from the cannery. Inside were ledgers, payment records, and Daniel's original instructions to the driver. Enough to destroy half the Moretti organization. One of the councilmen leaned forward. "Burn it. Handle Russo privately. Protect the family." Vincent looked at the documents. Then at me. For 1 second, I saw the man he had been. The man who solved fear with control. He closed the folder. "Send copies to the federal prosecutor." The room erupted. Vincent did not raise his voice. Any part of this empire built on Daniel's crimes ends tonight. You will lose everything, someone shouted. Not everything. His eyes stayed on mine. Daniel was taken away without blood, without vengeance, without another secret grave. Salvatore approached me after the room emptied. I am sorry, Emilia, he said in Italian. I shook my head. My name is Emily. Then I answered in English. And she deserved to hear that while she was alive. He bowed his head. Vincent waited near the doorway. He placed my apartment key in my palm. No guards. No conditions. No command hidden inside a promise. You are free to leave, he said. And if I do? His voice almost broke. Then I spend the rest of my life becoming the man who should have trusted you. Salvatore stood beside him. The father who had ruled through fear. The son who had inherited his silence. For the first time, neither man spoke. They were waiting for a woman's answer. I closed my fingers around the key. Then I left. Not because I felt nothing. Because I felt too much to let one honest night erase every wound that had come before it. Vincent did not follow me. That was his first real answer. The Moretti Empire began collapsing before sunrise. Arrests. Seized accounts. Men who had praised loyalty suddenly discovering lawyers and private planes. Vincent testified when required. He surrendered businesses built on Daniel's records and moved what remained into legal hands. He did not ask me to defend him. He did not send flowers. He did not place guards outside my door. For 6 months, he gave me the one thing he had once believed power could replace. Choice. I used the recovered documents to clear my grandmother's name. Inside the prayer book, beneath the torn lining, investigators found a handwritten list of dates matching the recording. She had hidden the truth there because she believed one day someone would listen without trying to own it. The Amelia Bellandi Language Center opened that spring in Queens. We translated medical forms, legal notices, school applications, ordinary words that could ruin lives when no one bothered to explain them. Vincent funded half the building. The agreement gave him no ownership. I checked 3 times. Salvatore came every Wednesday. At first, people avoided the chair beside him. His reputation arrived before he did. Then an elderly woman from Naples corrected his grammar. The room froze. Salvatore stared at her. And laughed. After that, people began speaking to him. Not carefully. Not fearfully. Honestly. One rainy evening, I found Vincent waiting outside the center. No black convoy. No tailored army. Just a dark coat, wet hair, and the scar beside his eyebrow catching the streetlight. I was told I needed an invitation, he said. You were. He held up a folded card. Salvatore had written it in shaky English. Come Wednesday. Bring coffee. Do not frighten anyone. I smiled before I could stop myself. Vincent noticed, but he did not move closer. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. Good. I don't expect trust. That will take longer. I know. The old Vincent would have filled the silence with promises. This one waited. So I stepped aside. Coffee is in the back. He entered the center like a man crossing a border without weapons. Over the following months, he returned. He repaired broken shelves without putting his name on them. He listened when parents spoke. He asked before helping. One night, after everyone had gone, he found me beneath my grandmother's photograph. I spent my life thinking protection meant standing between someone and danger, he said. Sometimes it does. And sometimes? Sometimes it means standing back when they choose their own path. His eyes held mine. Is there room on yours for me? I looked at the man who had once tried to buy my silence. The man who had later risked his kingdom to make the truth public. Then I reached for his hand. Not because he demanded it. Because he finally understood that love given freely was more powerful than loyalty taken by fear. Behind us, Salvatore turned off the lights and muttered that even patient old men had homes to return to. Vincent laughed. I did too. He had inherited a kingdom built on silence. But in the end, he did not win my heart by commanding me to stay. He earned it by learning how to hear me when I spoke.